Okay, so let me share my screen. Hello, can
Hi.
everyone see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, panel, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cornelia Quainoo Donkor. I'm a biochemistry graduate from Kuma University of Science and Technology. And this is my undergraduate project work, which I'll be sharing with you all. So I studied the relationship between food security, psychosocial stress, and glycemic status in individuals living with type 2 diabetes, attending an outpatient clinic in the Tafo municipality, Kumasi, hospital in the Tafo municipality. Um, all over the world, a lot of non-communicable diseases are becoming an increasing public health concern, and diabetes hasn't been left out. Over here in Ghana, we often manage, actually, Ghana and the world at large, we often manage type 2 diabetes by focusing heavily on pharmacological therapies involving insulin, metformin, and other agents. And yet, still, we see that a lot of patients have poor glycemic control. And so, this raises an important question that are we overlooking the everyday realities that may be influencing this disease outcome? That is what my work sought to find out. The International Diabetes Federation has found that about 589 million adults are living with type 2 diabetes, and this is projected to increase to about 850, which is very alarming. So, for this work, we sought to assess the relationship between food security, glycemic status, lipid profile, and lifestyle factors among individuals living with type 2 diabetes. And to do this, these were the objectives. One, to assess the dietary intake, food security status, and psychosocial stress levels among individuals living with type 2 diabetes. To determine the blood glucose level, which includes fasting blood sugar and HbA1c, which is glycated hemoglobin, and lipid profile among individuals living with type 2 diabetes, and also determine the relationship between these variables when it comes to the management of type 2 diabetes. The method we adopted was a cross-sectional study, meaning captured a snapshot of participants at a single point in time to assess the associations. I recruited 52 participants from the Tafo Government Hospital that had type 2 diabetes, had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and then checked for body weight, the anthropometric factors, body weight, standing height, waist circumference, and calculated for the body mass index, BMI. Also took blood sample for blood fasting blood sugar and then glycated hemoglobin check, which gives an outlook of the blood sugar level for the past 3 months, and also ran lipid profile tests. And the results from this was entered into Excel and analyzed with SPSS. In addition to this, we use structured questionnaires to collect information on food security status, the United States Department of Agriculture food security model. We also check dietary intake using food frequency questionnaire and physical activity levels using the International Physical Activity Questionnaire, as well as psychosocial stress levels using the Psychosocial Stress Questionnaire, all of which are standardized questionnaires and have methods for analyzing. And to the results, out of the 52 participants, we had about 73% being females and 27% being males. Please, you see my pointer? Hello.
No, we don't see your pointer.
Oh.
Can you put it in full screen mode? Do you know
Uh,
how to do that? It's at the bottom, yes. Good.
I'm unable to activate the pointer.
Yes.
Okay, so moving to the results, this first figure here, the circular figure we see here, is the dietary patterns of the various food groups that participants consumed. That is, we derived this using principal component analysis, which is a statistical method which we used the dietary intake results from the food frequency questionnaire. We used to group the various food items and then got an outlook of the dominant eating patterns of the participants. So we weren't looking at individual foods like rice, banku, or maybe yam. We're looking at it as food groups, carbohydrates, fats and oils, and then fruits, etc. These were grouped into most dominant patterns, and then we came up with 4 main patterns for our participants, which is to say that there were some participants that were consuming diets that were highly plant-based or vegetable-rich fruits, which are displayed with the blue figure here. There's a key under to give you a clear outlook of what each figure represents. We also had participants that were consuming diets that are very high in starch and fat, represented by the orange color here. We had some participants consuming diets that were high in sugar and animal-based foods, represented by the green, and then participants consuming foods-dominant diets, represented by the red. And so the figure that draws nearer to the end of the circle is what represents the most dominant diets in our participants, and the ones that are closer to the center represents the least dominant diet. So for this particular study, we observed varying dietary patterns among participants, particularly individuals that consumed diets that were high in refined carbohydrates and fat were associated with increased blood glucose levels, as most of these foods are rapidly consumed and digested, leading to sharp spikes in blood glucose. So we found that breakdown of fat acids, which will be packaged into VLDL, we know as bad cholesterol, and would eventually contribute to a worsened lipid profile and worsened glycemic control management. So that's why the fact that taking medication also having these challenges due to their dietary pattern, which wasn't having so much attention or wasn't given so much attention, going to show the importance of diet when it comes to type 2 diabetes management. And we'll see more on this when we come to the association studies in table 3. For the second figure here, we have our food security status of participants, which we analyze using the food security questionnaire and group them into percentages as to the level of food security. That is food secure, food insecure, and marginally secure. And we found this alarming results that over 50% of our participants were food insecure. Now, food insecurity or food security is defined by the Food Agriculture Organization as a state where individuals have consistent access to nutritious, well-balanced meals. Now, for individuals with type 2 diabetes, they may be taking their medications as they ought to. However, food insecurity may cause them to rely on cheaper, high-calorie dense foods that are typically refined in carbohydrates and unhealthy fats, and this would result in a spike in blood glucose level as well as further complications. And so despite the fact that these individuals may be adhering to medication schedules, they being food insecure would cause them to have a poor glycemic control, poor lipid profile, which would eventually lead to several complications as a result of this same diabetes, causing us to take a closer look at food security when it comes to the management of type 2 diabetes. Again, another factor here being represented by the results, this table 1 here is for the psychosocial stress level of our participants. As we can see, we find that about 32.7% of our participants had moderate stress level. Quite a high number of them were displaying low stress. However, this is still alarming because for type 2 diabetics, the presence of stress would cause an increase in cortisol. Now, increase in cortisol directly translates to increased resistance to insulin in the body. When you are type 2 diabetic and you have increased resistance in insulin as a result of cortisol, it means that the little sugar you consume would cause a spike in your blood sugar, which would again worsen your glycemic control and expose you to several complications, going to show the effects that even stress has on participants when it comes to management of type 2 diabetics. So these people may be following or adhering their drug schedule, but their exposure to stress may also be worsening their condition in the background, causing us to take a closer look at this when it comes to the management of type 2 diabetes. Again, this is all represented here in our table 2, or being reflected here in our table 2, where we see that about 40.4% of our participants had poor glycemic control, which goes to show exactly what we found out in the food security and the psychosocial stress, as well as in the dietary pattern. Looking at figure 3.0 here, we have our lipid profile of our participants, and there's a key here. The green represents desirable outcome, blue represents borderline high, and then the orange represents high. So we find that for this particular profile, the majority of our participants had high level of LDL in their body. And this is alarming because LDL is bad cholesterol, low density lipoprotein. LDL is all responsible for transporting cholesterol from the liver to the various tissues in our body. if you have high levels of LDL as a type 2 diabetic, it's going to be deposited in your blood vessels, particularly your arteries, and it's going to be converted by macrophages, which are immune cells, into fatty streaks. These fatty streaks would form plaques in our cells, in our blood vessels, particularly arteries, and lead to conditions like atherosclerosis, which is a complication of type 2 diabetes. So again, you may be adhering to your drug schedule, but due to factors like these, you would be exposed to other complications of diabetes like atherosclerosis, causing us to take a closer look at this parameter when it comes to the management of type 2 diabetes. This final figure here is generally giving us the associations between the various parameters that we tested for. We came about this using correlation analysis. So we find several significant associations highlighted in the bold in color for the p-value. A p-value was used as a measure of statistical significance. So a p-value less than 0.05 was found to be significant for our studies. So taking psychosocial stress and glycated HbA1c, which is the glycated hemoglobin, you would find that participants that had high levels of stress also had high levels of HbA1c, which is blood glucose, over the past 3 months, which I talked about over here, the effect of stress on HbA1c management, going to again prove the importance of the management of stress when it comes to type 2 diabetes. All the other factors here, food security and HDL, physical activity and LDL, visceral fat FBS, visceral fat and fasting blood glucose, fruit dominant diets and BMI, all of these have significant associations, going to show the importance of all these factors, taking a closer look at all these factors when it comes to the management of type 2 diabetes. In conclusion, we found that poor glycemic control was common in the large number of participants that we looked at. There was a high rate of food insecurity contributing to this poor glycemic control. Individuals who adhered to a fruit dominant diet were protected against the various complications as compared to the individuals who adhered to high starchy diets. And a considerable proportion of our participants, though, showed moderate psychosocial stress. We had about 40.4% showing, that's 2.7% showing poor stress levels, and we've seen the effect of that, causing us to take a closer look at this. What this research is saying is that let's not only focus on the pharmacological aspects when it comes to management of type 2 diabetes. Let's look at factors like stress, factors like level of physical activity, factors like the kind of food they eat and their level of food security, in addition to the drug schedules that we give to patients with type 2 diabetes in order for a more holistic management of the condition. So after this research, we went to the hospital, we spoke to them about the findings that we have, and then got them all educated on the essence of all of these factors when it comes to the management of their condition. And that's what I have for you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cornelia. Please, do we have feedback for Cornelia? Dr. Vida.
Cornelia.
Hello.
You done so well. You have exhausted the time very well, and you have answered one or two questions I'm about to ask in your presentation, getting to how you went to the hospital too. But before everything, Cornelia, let me chip in this. Whenever you are doing presentation, not everybody has the background as you have. So once you have mentioned type 2 diabetes, then there is something called type 1 diabetes. Please, you are working on type 2. What is type 2 diabetes? Before I go on asking the question. Don't assume the people who you are talking to know to the extent of you knowing. Just take it that you are talking to lay people. What is type 2 diabetes?
Okay, so when we talk about diabetes in general, it is a sugar disease. That's what I'll say to anyone. So in our body, there's something responsible for the management of sugar. When you consume excess sugar, it is supposed to be broken down into forms that can help our body to further use it. And that which is responsible for this is called insulin.
Yes.
Now, in some individuals, insulin in their body is not active. Their body
Okay.
is unable to use the insulin to convert the sugar into more safer or useful forms or other forms for the body. So we have two forms of the type 2 diabetes. We have the people who are able to produce the insulin and yet it is not enough. And then we have the people who are able to produce the insulin and yet their body does not even respond to the function of the insulin in their body. So, regardless of the insulin being present, they consume the sugar and it remains glucose in their body. Unlike an individual who would consume sugar and have the insulin work on it and convert it to other forms like
Other
glycogen
forms.
energy, which would be
Energy.
used.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So those whose sugars are not able to be used, though the body produces the sugar, but the know that the sugar is being produced, but the body cannot take it and use. Are there those who get the type 2 insulin and type 2 diabetes?
Yes, please.
Good. So we have understood it that way. Thank you very much for your presentation. You have also made us aware that despite the various medications that are given to us, stress level, you mentioned something, what?
Your stress level.
The stress level, our intake, our physical ability, our intake. You mentioned a first point. I forgot. I wanted to ask a
Dietary
question on it.
intake.
The
Dietary
dietary intake.
Yeah.
Okay, so despite the fact that we are very religious or consistent in our medications, if these levels are also not checked, if the dietary intake and our stress management and these things are also, even the type of food we eat, the
Yes.
type of food we eat are also not very well checked, the medication will not work as expected. Yes, and so I was about to ask, what are the measures you have put in place to get these people in the hospitals informed? But you told me you go to the hospitals and then you give them maybe a form of education as to how to look at these sites too, so that the medication can work very well. You've done
Yes.
so well. Thank you. A very good presentation. And I
Thank you.
like your confidence. Boost it up and then fine. Thank you very much. You have
Thank you
a
too.
good day.
Thank you to Dr. Kaitete. So please, Dr. Abo, your feedback.
Yeah, thank you, Cornelia. I had to actually run after you because you were talking so fast. It looked like you have chewed the whole thing and you are just following. Some of us were a bit slow in following, we had problems. But I like your poster. Yes, it is very nicely set out, except that it looks like the font sizes will be more. But you're able to compress everything on the poster. I'm happy Dr. Akaitete asked about the type 2 diabetes because you assumed we knew what it was all about, even if we did. It was good you explained it later. But then what is the type 1 diabetes? I'd like to know.
Okay. So the type 1 diabetes is a bit different from the type 2 diabetes in that with that one, the body cells destroy the insulin. It destroys the cells that are responsible for producing the insulin. So in our body, we have cells called beta cells, pancreatic beta cells found on a part of the body called the islet of Langerhans. So these cells are what are responsible for producing the insulin. But for those with a type 1 diabetes, as a result of their own body destroying the pancreatic beta cells, they are unable to produce it at all. So you would find that such individuals face more severe conditions if they are to have it in full as compared to the type 2 diabetes, because their body's immune system mistakenly finds the beta cells that produces the insulin as foreign and attacks them. So they are unable to produce the insulin.
So does it mean that one is more dangerous?
Yes, because for them, they are in a constant state of severe hyperglycemia. For type 2 diabetes, your body may produce some response to some and decide to ignore the rest. But for type 1 diabetes, your body is actively fighting against the cells responsible for producing the insulin. So even if the cells try to
Okay.
make some T cells would go and fight against them, destroy them. The cells make them fight, destroy them. So you would find that you're in a state of constant hyperglycemia. So those are the ones who actually take the insulin shots because they need it in
Oh,
more higher doses. Yeah. But for type 2 diabetes, you would find that some of them will be given the metformin because they are able to at least get a bit of insulin being responded to by their body.
okay. Thank you. Please, how did you measure stress?
We use the psychosocial stress questionnaire.
Oh, there's a questionnaire like that.
Yes.
Okay. And what did you find out, or what do you know to be some of the causes of the stress? We are
So
all
for
learning.
Yes, please. For our particular study population as a Tafo Government Hospital, we found that quite a number of them are market women,
Oh.
consistently waking up very early in the morning and staying in the market till late at night. And as a result of this, one, they are constantly missing their drug schedule. And in addition to that, they are exposed to several factors like arguments. You would find that the people who had the poorest glycemic control profile are constantly being involved in arguments in the market. Some people would say they have to wake up at 3 a.m., go for load from this particular place, go to the market at 7 a.m., come back at home at 9 a.m., prepare breakfast, go back to the market by 10:30 and stay there till 3, go for their children from school. So most of these people are facing stress due to their, should I say, life condition,
Yeah, their lifestyle.
yes,
Very
lifestyle,
true.
which if you look at it, they may not have so much control over, but making them aware of this as a factor that is causing them to worsen their own condition would help them to probably find a way to make the stress less on them. For instance, someone would say, okay, they wouldn't wake up at 3 a.m. anymore to go to the market for the load. They would rather wait till they close the market and then ask their partner or someone else in the market to take their load in addition to theirs for days that they are unable to go so they can get rest for maybe 2 or 3 days in a week. Those are some of the feedback we were getting when we went back to share with them our findings. For other people, their stress were as a result of marital issues in the house. Majority of our participants were married. Yes, that is. I didn't display it here because it's not a major findings. Majority of them were married and they said they have marital issues at home. And so sometimes even taking the drugs is a problem for them. And basically, the very things that we experience in life that we think that, oh, we should not go to the extent of affecting our conditions. Maybe should only affect us psychologically. These are what are causing us to have worsened management of this condition because they don't know that when they are stressed, their cortisol level goes high. The little insulin in their body now, their body becomes resistant to it. So making them aware of this causes them to take a closer look at it and try their best to do anything that would cause them to face less stress.
Okay, thank you very much. Did you go to only to the hospitals to share, or you went also to the market?
So this being my final year project, like we actually did it at Tafo Government Hospital, the Kumasi South Hospital, and then a hospital in the Owen, a town in Kumasi called Owen. So our main focus was the hospitals, but after coming up with our findings and going to the various hospitals to speak to them, we went to 2 or 3 stores around the hospital to share our findings, but that was as far as it went. We didn't actually go to the communities to speak with them.
Okay, okay. Well done. I just like the way you talk fast. But next time, slow down a bit so that we can all follow. But it
Yes,
was a
please.
well presented work. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cornelia. How to put a picture of your husband stressing you is very difficult on a poster. I think, do we have any questions for Cornelia? Any questions at all? The education on type 1 and type 2 diabetes was very enlightening. Do we have any question? Anybody?
My question is, How does hereditary factors also play a role in the treatment of type 2 diabetes?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Heredity plays a role when it comes to diabetes. And for most of the individuals who have type 2 diabetes, when they go to the hospital, am I still audible?
Yes, please.
Yes, when they go to the hospital, mostly before they are even diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, it is because they have been asked if they have a family predisposition to diabetes. That's how come the condition is even identified in the first place. So it is influenced by genetics. It is should I say it's a polygenetic disorder? So not just one gene, but mutation in single genes that result in type 2 diabetes being passed on from a parent or grandparent to someone in the family. So it is very strongly related to genetics, a first degree something, I should say.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's very relevant for today because thanks to the economy, let me put it that way, stress levels are already high. Then you add marriage to it, and then home, and then childcare. Thank you so much for highlighting this issue.